Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. We're going to dive into all the latest news around the NBA. But first, quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Help us out. We sure do appreciate it. And of course, follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. In fact, you don't have to be an either or person. You can do both. You can subscribe to the
Yeah.
YouTube channel and the podcast feed. That way you can take us with us wherever you go, or you can, watch the video version if you prefer. Up to you. But again, we appreciate all the subscribers we've been getting lately. Would love to see that number continue to grow. I'm Trevor Lane, by the way. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, plenty to get into as always around especially with the trade deadline coming up. It feels like every day there's just a little bit more on the trade front.
Yeah, whether it's teams are, settling in to make trades, teams are putting guys on the trade market, teams are looking for help. There's just all that scuttlebutt of player, team X is interested in player Y and all that sort of stuff. So, but that's what makes this time of year fun. And we're 4 weeks out tomorrow, so we're basically getting down to it as far as trades go. I just feel like we're gonna have something soon. Someone always like gets this going a week or two ahead of time, and all that. So we'll see. But it's so compact standings wise that we still don't have super defined buyers and sellers just yet.
I do wonder, like, usually when it's the one that gets done like mid-January, it's the one nobody saw coming.
Yep.
It's that one. It's not the one that people have been talking about forever. It's always the one that you went, whoa, wait, this guy's going there. How did this
Yeah.
happen? So
Exactly.
I think it'll be of that variety. It'll be something that we didn't see coming, which makes it all the more fun most of the time.
Yep. Without a doubt. Yeah. So I just pulled it up just to be certain. I kind of use like a rough line at this time of year of about 3.5, 4 games out as like, all right, you're not doing it. In the East, that's Charlotte and Detroit only for making the play-in tournament, and in
Mhm.
the West, it's only San Antonio and Houston that are more than 3.5 games out of the race for the final play-in spot. So that's just that's 4 teams that are sellers here. That's it. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's not a lot of sellers on the market, and we know the demand is high. And let's go back to economics class. You know what happens when demand is high and supply is low, price goes up. So that's what we're seeing on the market right now. We'll see if that sustains all the way through, sticks all the way through the trade deadline on February 9th. We'll see what
I
happens there.
I will say too, I think Orlando's like realistic of like, yeah, we're 3.5 out of the last playing spot, but we're probably not making that run.
Right.
I think the Thunder they're a game and a half out, so that one's a little different, but I have a feeling they're probably gonna let's say reprioritize here
Mhm.
fairly soon. And then my guess is even a couple of the teams that are in the running, they'll say, yeah, this isn't for us. And maybe they'll drop out like a Washington or a Toronto potentially here, just if it's yeah, we can make the run, but what are we making a run just the play-in tournament?
Right.
That's not where we want to be. So it will definitely pick up. It's just how it goes. And then we've even seen teams that are still like in the running make trades between each other sometimes too. So just to rebalance our roster. So don't give up on the deadline just yet.
Yeah, that's true. I'm seeing a lot of people say, "Oh, that the trade deadline is going to be a bust this year because there's not
Yep.
enough sellers, so nobody's going to make any moves." Which, I mean, that could happen, but sometimes stuff comes out and surprises you when you're expecting something to not be great or whatever. Then next thing you know, boom, it's fantastic. You never know. For example, I don't know why this is the first one that pops to my head into my head, but I went into the theater to see the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, thinking they made a movie out of Pirates of the Caribbean. Whatever, this is going to be awful, but I'll watch it. And then it was great. It was fantastic. It became like a franchise. Yeah, some of the later ones were not so good, but like that movie was great. Sometimes that's the NBA, right? When you're expecting something to not be good, wham, greatness falls upon you.
Yeah, that's it. Well, what does Zendaya's character MJ say? Keep have low expectations, and that way you'll never be disappointed.
Yep.
So that's that there it is. You just gotta not think it's gonna be very good, and then anything that happens is better than that. But yeah, let's get into the news.
Let's do it. So let's kick things off with this. LeBron James, according to a conversation that Dave McMenamin and Zach Lowe were having on the Low Post podcast, would like to stick around with the Los Angeles Lakers. So despite all the buzz that we've been hearing about, hey, LeBron's going to be putting pressure on the team, things that he's said, things that he said that he later clarified didn't mean quite what we thought they meant, all kinds of stuff that's been out there. He's apparently his ideal situation here is to stick with the Lakers for the remainder of his career. But what he's put out recently, according to McMenamin, is essentially that his patience isn't infinite, is the term that was used. Like at some point, his patience will run out. He wants to contend or he wants to play in the playoffs, but his preference would be to stick in LA.
Yeah, none of this is surprising to me at all. Like I think we're in a spot with LeBron where what we're kind of looking at here is one, he wouldn't have signed the extension if he didn't want to stay.
Mhm.
LeBron is not well, I better grab this money now just because it might not be here. He doesn't need it. So it's not sometimes that is a situation, where it's like, hey, you threw a 5-year max in front of me. I'm going to grab that
Yeah.
contract because, why not? I think in this situation with LeBron, it is very much I'm happy here. I don't want to play anywhere else now. I mean, he's relocated his entire life to Southern California. So, but that also doesn't mean I'm cool to be a play-in tournament team,
Yeah.
Year after year. So he's gonna do, I always call it the superstar right of I'm gonna put pressure on the organization to make changes. And if you don't, well, then we could always say, hey, how about a trade or something like that. And now disclaimer, just because I feel compelled to add it every time LeBron comes up, he cannot be traded right now. Can't be traded before the trade deadline. That would have to be a summer thing. Then, and even then, I can't imagine how completely sideways this would have to go for that to be a thing. It'd have to be like, yeah, we traded AD to the Spurs for Doug McDermott, and that's it. Like that, no picks, nothing, and that's all we did. And now, we're going to trade everything else. And we traded the 2 first-round picks with Russ for, I don't know, some other terrible contract. Then yeah, maybe they can antagonize, him all the way out of town. But
Mhm.
I think for now, it's just, hey, I'm not cool to just playing tournament basketball. I would like to win here eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's exactly what it is. And I also think it's interesting that recently he kind of walked back the Bronny situation where the thought was, okay, he's gonna decline his option for in 2024, and then he's gonna go sign with whatever team drafts Bronny, and that's gonna be the play. Well,
Mhm.
he changed his wording recently. Now he's saying he wants to be on the floor with him,
Yeah,
which means he could be on any team just and play against he could play against his son and still be and that could still check that box for him. So his preference, of course, would be under this on the same team. And his ideal situation is he finishes his career with the Lakers and Bronny becomes a Laker and they play together. I think that's his ideal situation. But he's also realizing that may be a very difficult goal to achieve. And so if it comes down to, hey, we're just going to be on the floor together. We're going to play against each other in a game. He'll also go that route, which I think opens up a lot of possibilities for the
sure.
future because again, that's a really difficult thing to try to make happen even for someone like LeBron James.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know he would still love to play with him in the same
Mhm.
uniform and did do really make, I believe, NBA history. And I know it's happened with the Griffies and
Yeah,
in Major League Baseball, but I can't imagine it's ever happened in the NBA, even going all the way back. Brothers have played together and things like
sure.
that. But it would be super cool. And my guess is they're still going to do what they can to try to make that happen. But yeah, I think he's just being a little bit more realistic. Of hey, let's not make that the full on expectation of what has to happen here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because that can certainly complicate things for the future.
Yeah.
But in any event, that's the preference for LeBron. Now we'll see if the Lakers can ultimately put together a team that can get him where he wants to go. Some transactions around the NBA. 10-day contract still getting signed. Derek Favors lands with the Atlanta Hawks. Saban Lee also gets a 10-day contract. So, I mean, this is typical for this time of year. 10-day deals getting signed.
Mhm.
We're going to see, teams start to cycle through some of these players too. We'll see guys their 10-day contracts expire. Teams move on to other players as we go through. But here's a couple of players who and Favors obviously more experience, but could get a look in their new location. Particularly, I look at the Hawks without Clint Capella, and I wonder what Favors can do there if he can make an impact.
Yeah, it's been Onyeka Okongwu is the only, true 5 on the roster that's played. They've played some with John Collins at the 5, like they've done in the past. But asking him to do that once in a while, the dog's checking in. Asking him to do that once in a while versus asking him to do that all the time is a very different story. You can't really ask him to play, and do that, 15, 20, 25
Mm.
minutes a night right now, especially if you're thinking, well, maybe we can still turn this thing around and make a playoff run. Then we're going to need him to do it. Then you're going to need him to have plenty left in the tank. So I think he's such an annoying little brat when he wants
He's-
to.
he wants his time on camera
That's
too.
it. Yeah, for everybody who always wants to see Tatum, there he is. That's him right there. That's the guy. The other thing I will say with this is it is they tells me maybe at least over the next couple of weeks they feel a little uncertain about what's going on with Capella.
Mhm.
Probably not going to see him back, so you want to make sure you're covered. And yeah, go with the vet because you're still trying to win in Atlanta. You're still trying to turn this season around. They're 19-21. They're 3.5 games behind the Pacers for the 6th spot in that final assured playoff spot. So you're not out of it. You've got work to do, obviously, but you'll figure that out. And then Saban Lee with the Suns.
Yeah.
Suns just need any guards that can play right now. I mean, they're just, Chris Paul didn't play the other day. He's hurt again. Devin Booker's obviously still out. Campaign is out. So I think Saban Lee, this could be one of those ones where it's 10-day, followed by a second 10-day, followed by a rest of the season contract if he shows up well enough for them here over the next, like, let's say 3 weeks ish or so. Because just a reminder or knowledge, if you didn't know, 10 days, you can sign 2 with the same team. Then after that, the team, if they want to keep you around, has to re-sign you for the rest of the season.
Correct. Exactly. That's how the 10 days work. And you're right. I think Saban Lee is in a good spot for a 10-day contract. This is the type of position where if you're a free agent right now and you're going to pick a 10-day contract, this is the type of situation to look for because the potential is there because there's that need for this to become a long-term thing for him.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to go somewhere where you can play and fill an actual hole for them.
All right, so some really great news coming out of Cleveland. Ricky Rubio will be returning. I'm excited about this. Rubio seemed like he was a good fit with the Cavs last year. It was unfortunate when he got injured. And you know what? Look, Darius Garland does a ton there, but Ricky Rubio will be a welcome addition, even if it does take a little bit of time for him to really get his legs under him and all that sort of stuff. Just a good veteran presence for this Cavs squad.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is get Rubio back in the fold here with call it 40-ish games or so to figure it out. Even if he's only going to maybe play in, let's say, 30 of those games, that gives you that opportunity for him to really get into a rhythm, figure out your rotations because they've settled into some stuff now. It's kind of Mitchell and Garland start together. Garland goes to the bench. Mitchell takes over running the offense. Karis LeVert does some of the running of the offense. So you're going to have to change your rotation around a little bit to fit in Rubio. Obviously, you do that because that's where it should be. But this is good. It gives them just that much more lineup flexibility too. If you want to play small with 3 guards out there, you can really do that with Rubio at times. Especially if he can continue to hold up defensively. Where I think he's always been a very underrated defender in his career. He's always been really solid on that end of the floor. So as long as he can hold up, it's crazy though. I was thinking about this the other day. Like I very much remember when Ricky Rubio was like the Luca. Never that he got to that levels,
You're
but it
right.
was like this like
The next
teenage
great guard.
wonderkind, and
Yep.
yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, like this, this kid that thinks he does at his age, like the NBA's, they're going to be there. Now he's like 34 years old, so just another reminder: time comes for us all.
I like too that he fully accepted that transition, not just in terms of his play style, but also in terms of his appearance. Like he was
Yeah,
that he kind of had
yeah,
that kid face coming in, you know what I mean? Like he was a baby face and he comes in and then eventually when he's ready to make that transition, he grows out the hair and the
the full
beard and
beard.
all that
Yeah,
and now he's like the full on veteran here with the
I
Cavs.
gave him
But
a couple years. He's 32, but still, my point still stands. But
sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. In any event, he's back in action, so that's going to be good to see for the Cavs. Another player who's back in action, he's a little important. Steph Curry, returns to the Warriors. We'll also talk about their trade front a little bit. But how about this? That Steph Curry comes back and plays well. And I mean, 24 points.
Hammered.
Yeah, and but listen, okay. So they lost pretty handily to the Phoenix Suns last night. And it was like the Suns had a fairly substantial lead for the majority of the game. The Warriors made a little bit of a push at the end, but it never really amounted to much. This was the Suns starting lineup. Dario Saric, Torrey Craig, Mikal Bridges, Bismack Biyombo, and Dwayne Washington. That's their starting five for this game, and they took down the Warriors in a game that saw Curry drop 24, Klay Thompson had 29, Poole came off the bench and had 27. You got 12 boards and 6 assists and 3 steals out of Draymond, so a very Draymond stat line there. It's surprising to see a Suns team that is missing so many key pieces get a win over the Warriors. The Warriors didn't shoot well, and that's a big factor here. They shot just 39% from the field, but still surprise outcome there when you look at how these two teams match up.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I think if you looked at it standings wise and you just looked at the two teams, you'd be like, okay, not the end of the world that the Warriors lost this game. But yeah, like you said, when you rattle that off, maybe the most surprising stat line of the year, Damian Lee, 14 for 14 from the foul line. I would have picked Damian Lee to hit 14 3-pointers in a game before Damian Lee to take 14
Right?
free throws. Like he just, it doesn't, that's not what he does, right? That's just not the player he is. It's never been what he's been asked to do. I'm gonna look it up because I guarantee you he's never taken anything near that
He
amount of free throws
he
before.
averages 1.4 free throws per game.
Yeah, in
To
his
for context.
game, let's see, well, he had an 11 free throw attempt game a couple years ago, 9 in a game last year. But yeah, 14 for 14 for Damian Lee. That's one of those stats that just is like, wait, what? How did this happen? So not that he's a bad player by any means, but he's like this guy's like a perimeter shooter. He's not somebody who gets downhill and all that. So, but you know what? Game Phoenix really needed. They've got to get back on track here. And the Warriors, after really playing well, they've lost 3 in a row, so they're back under 500. Kind of continue to straddle that 500 line there, and that's not only is the West compact, but it's a real jumble there, like in that middle of that play-in too, with Portland and the Lakers, and then for now the Thunder kind of looming on the outside.
Everybody's kind of expecting the Thunder just to fall out at some point. Hasn't quite happened yet, though.
It's one of those ones where do you start to wonder, like them and the Jazz, right? Everybody's just like, yeah, they're gonna fall out. It looked like Utah was for a little while there, but then all of a sudden it's like a week left in the season. It's like, oh, these guys are not. They're
still there.
here. Yeah,
Are they?
That does happen sometimes.
They almost beat Miami last night. They only lost by a point. They were right there the entire game,
Well,
and then the Jazz beat the Cavs.
Yep. Did you see the big stat out of the Miami game? 40 for 40 on free throws for the Heat.
I did not notice.
Yeah.
I watched a good chunk of that game and didn't realize that. Well, Jimmy Butler gets a lot of the credit there. 23 for 23. Man, how about that? You win a game by 1 and you go perfect from the free throw line.
Yeah. Unbelievable, right?
Wow.
Just, I mean, there were Thunder fans this morning I saw on the timeline that were like, yeah, 40 free throw attempts, not cool. Like they do tend to foul sometimes. They're a young team. They can get caught up. But Miami, boy, it became just we're just going to the basket and throwing stuff up because we're gonna get to the line.
A parade to the free throw line.
Yeah.
That's oh yeah. I mean, Lou Dort fouled out. He fouled out. Only one player fouled out. Wow, see, I thought there would have been multiple foul outs given the number of free throw attempts. But on the trade front, the Warriors are looking for size and shooting, which I mean, most teams are, right?
Sure.
Most teams are looking for, and now specifically if they're looking for the center position, that might be a little bit different. But most teams looking for shooting out there. But those are things that the Warriors have said that they're hoping to find out there on the trade market if and when prices do normalize. Big if there.
I think our thing with the Warriors is, I know people I think maybe got a little swayed by the Andrew Wiggins trade a few years ago, but they don't generally do in-season trades. They have, since they've kind of come to this rise, they've been a player on the buyout market most of those years where they'll get a player late in the season that way, but they have not been a big in-season trade team. They've generally preferred, we've got our guys, we're going to run with this. But Steve Kerr directly said, Jamaica or Kevon Looney, Draymond Green have done a wonderful job in their front court, and they've played great. And then he said, "But I'd like to get him a little rest," and that's probably a little bit of a shot at
James Wiseman?
James Wiseman. Like he can't
Right?
play. JaMychal Green is obviously still hurt, so yeah, I think you're in a position there with the Warriors where it's hey, we got to get more in the front court. I continue to believe that they're going to do something. I feel
Mhm.
like if there is an in season move to be made, I think they will make it this year.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Also on the injury front, Kevin Durant is going to be out for at least a couple of weeks dealing with that MCL injury. It's going to be at least a couple of weeks, maybe more. It's probably going to be more, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
this is one where it sounds like this is generally at least a 3-week injury. So I think teams now almost default to will update you in 2 weeks.
right.
It seems like every injury update comes with that kind of tag to it of 2 weeks, and we'll let you know as long as the guy's not day to day. So yeah, I'm not going to be shocked if we don't see him till after the All-Star break because we're
Yeah,
not
that's a
that
good
far out from that.
right.
So if it's 3 or 4 weeks, maybe you look at it and say, you know what, maybe give him another week or two here and let him really, get back to full strength, and then we come back, strong after the All-Star break. But it's Kevin Durant; he likes to play, so I think when he's ready, he'll come. But yeah, it's going to be a while for sure.
We're close enough to the All-Star break where any little setback in the rehabilitation process,
Hmm.
like even if it's something that knocked him back a few days, is probably enough to kick him into the All-Star break. And then you say, well, let's take this opportunity then and really get him rest. And so then he comes back completely 100% ideally, and then off you go after the All-Star break.
Exactly.
Yep.
I'm very curious to see how they look without him
Mhm.
because he was playing unbelievable, and I think it's gotten masked over a little bit just with how well they're playing as a team. But the Nets are in a position where it's KD and Kyrie do the absolute all of the scoring almost,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of pick a random dude out of the hat who shows up, as the third guy and chips in 10 or 12 points. So someone's going to have to step up. They're going to need Ben Simmons to, all right, you can't take 3 or 4 shots a night. We're going to need you to take 8, 10 shots a night. We need you to take a few more shots. And maybe you stumble into something that works for you with that, where you're like, all right, we found something that's workable now with Simmons that we can still use. Because KD, this is no, but not meant at all as any kind of knock on him because he's incredible, but he's one of the more plug and play guys in the league. You can just kind of stick him in. It's like, yeah, that'll work.
Mhm.
Like, no, almost no matter what you're doing, because he's not super ball dominant. He can play on the ball, he can play off the ball, he can do all sorts of different stuff. Where it's more those ball dominant guys or those bigs that you have to get them touches. That's where it gets a little tricky sometimes to work those guys in. And then the other guy I would say keep an eye on, TJ Warren. He's played pretty well.
Yeah.
But your one thing with TJ Warren is I'd be very cautious of just saying, well, we'll give him 30 minutes a night
Right.
because okay, is he going to hold up if he has to play that much? So that's the one worry. They should be okay. And my guess is they may slide a little bit in the standings here because Philly, Milwaukee, and Cleveland are right there behind them. But it's not going to be so much. It's not going to be like last year when KD was out, like where they kind of just fell apart.
Their recent run too has built them up a little bit of a buffer, and not that this built bought like any kind of healing time really for KD because this is going to be a multi-week thing here. But their last game was on Sunday. Their
Yep.
next game is coming up tomorrow, so they've got 3 full days off, and the point of that is you have 3 days off to figure out what this is going to look like without Kevin Durant. How is it that
Exactly.
we want to play? Let's
Yep.
get together. Let's run through this. Let's scheme some things, get out on the practice floor, which I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize how little NBA teams actually practice because
Yep.
most of the times they play every other day and you don't want to put that strain on the players' bodies of practice of you have a game, then you practice, then you have a game, then you have practice. Like you don't want to do that all the way through a season. So to have 3 days in a row off, I think I'm not saying it's going to change their fortunes against Boston. I think that's going to be a tough one for them, but I think just in terms of how do we manage Kevin Durant being out, there's a benefit to having this time off to kind of figure some things through on just
Yep.
the luck of the schedule.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to look at some of the film too and see, all right, these are the things we get into that work. when he's not on the floor, just when it's
Mhm.
his normal substitution pattern. All right, we're going to run this. All right, we can run this action with TJ Warren as the guy or whatever it is. So yeah, it definitely is helpful to have had that time. And they've got the Boston game, as you said, coming up, which is going to be a tough one. Then they've got a handful of pretty winnable games, and then it gets really tough for them
Yeah.
at the end of the month, beginning part of February. Then they really go through a bunch of tough teams, and that's where I wonder is, are you going to be saying, all right, well, it probably depends on what happens over the next couple of weeks. It is, how long you hold KD out. Obviously, you're not rushing him back and playing him
Right.
before he's ready, but are you going to be super cautious, or you're going to be, all right, he's ready, let's go and let's run with this?
Let's jump over to or back to the Phoenix Suns. They are reportedly interested in trading for Jalen McDaniels. Again, looking for a little bit of help on the wing. What's the asking price there for a player like Jalen McDaniels out of Charlotte?
Yeah, my guess is Charlotte would like to get, if they were going to trade him, would love to get something back that's, ideally a first round pick or a young player that could be in the mix. I think they would want to, play it out that way. Just, I don't know that that's going to be where it goes. And I certainly don't think that's going to be what they get from Phoenix. But I don't know how many people know, like, he's played really well
Hmm.
this year. 10.9 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 1.1 steals. Those are all career highs. He's at 26.5 minutes. He's been starting quite often. He's been kind of the guy who started when they haven't had Gordon Hayward. He's come in and stepped in and started there. Decent shooter, 45, 35, 86% from the free throw line. Doesn't
Hmm.
get there very often, but just a good, solid player. He's still young. He's only 24, almost 25. He turns 25 in like 3 weeks. So be right there. Unrestricted free agent this summer, so that'll also kind of keep his
Yeah.
market down a little bit. But you'll get his bird rights if you trade for him. He's not going to be somebody who's going to break the bank on a new contract. So yeah, he's be somebody I'd be definitely taking a look at, because the other thing, $1.9 million contract, so super easily tradable salary.
Right, right. I mean, if the asking price is a first round pick, you can do a first round and a veteran minimum guy that you've got at the end of your bench,
Exactly.
and there you go, and you're good. So this is, I think that he's a nice player to target if Charlotte has decided they don't, or they're ready to move on from him. Although I would think that if you're Charlotte, a young wing like this is probably something that you would like to keep around.
Sure.
But if the price is right, then yeah, I guess
And
they
I
could go
think
ahead and move him.
if you're Charlotte, I think your only motivation to trade him is, are we going to re-sign PJ Washington this summer if we're going to keep him
Right.
around? We've got the Miles Bridges thing still kind of looming over us. Even if that's no rush to resolve it, which that report came out, then there was the Hornets sent out their own report saying not happening.
Right.
Now nothing's happening. So I'm going to guess either the Hornets floated the trial balloon of how are people going to think about this, and what would help them out with that, and the answer was not very good. Also, you didn't need to do it like Christmas Eve. Like, that was dumb.
Yeah.
Like, no one was going to feel good about that. But the other part of it is, my guess is it was not well received, and the Hornets are, yeah, we're going to let this play out a little bit longer, or maybe they always were. Just, no, we're not doing that, and that info came from somewhere else. But it still is looming over you. He's still going to be a restricted free agent next summer, even if you don't do anything this year. And then, like I said, you've got to do PJ Washington. You still have Gordon Hayward's contract on the books. It is getting a little messy, especially when those guys all overlap positions
Yeah.
between the 3 and the 4. So I think your challenge with McDaniels is, where are we going with this? And if it's, all right, well, we got to kind of reset everything anyway, we can get something good go. I don't know how they get him, because I'm not certain I would give up the first round for him. Boy, he'd be a perfect fit for your Lakers. Like,
Oh
he
yeah,
would
it would.
be great, for them, and very attainable, right? Because this is not a guy who's, all right, well, we're gonna have to package together 4 players to go get him. But I don't know what the Lakers could give them that would be of interest that isn't one of the first rounders, and that starts to get a little probably, that's a step too far on the kind of, I try to save those for better players.
Even if you wanted to make it like a fake first round pick, you know what I mean? Where it's a first, but it's
Yeah,
fairly heavily protected. Like even then you
it
get
just ties
into
you up
it
then.
ties you up. That's
Yeah,
exactly it.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it does get a little messy, but boy, he would fill a lot of needs for them
Yeah.
at the 3 and the 4.
He absolutely would. Hornets, if you're interested in a bunch of seconds, I think I think the Lakers might. But
Bunch
if
of
they
seconds in a lightly used Kendrick Nunn.
yes, there you go. There you go. All right, Otto Porter Jr. Unfortunately out for the season. I mean, he was near the top of my list in terms of players that player that teams should target on the free agent market this
Yeah,
past
mine too.
summer. Was good with the Warriors, just the type of wing player that you need, and it's been a season to forget for Otto Porter Jr. Injuries have derailed him, and now he's done for the season.
Yeah, he only got into 8 games this year, and then the foot problems just could never get back from it. And it was always a surprise signing to a large extent. With like, wow, really Toronto? Like with all the other forwards that they already have, I think now what you start to wonder is, all right, he's got a $6.3 million player option next year. Well, what does that look like? Does he is he more likely to take that and say, all right, let's try to figure it out? Does he opt out and say, yeah, let's see where we're going here with this? The Raptors would. We don't need to talk it anymore, but very interesting team to keep an eye on here over the next month, leading up to the
Sure.
trade deadline. Just a lot of things that could happen, but yeah, just kind of a bummer because the fit always seemed a little odd. Was like they really needed another forward in that mix in Toronto, and then we never really get to see what it could look like.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate, and hopefully he heals up and we can see him back in action next year. But man, I was so excited for him this season. So frustrating that he's had the year that he has.
Yeah, just kind of interesting, right? Remember, we were like, man, the Warriors lost both Otto Porter and Gary
Yep.
Payton, didn't keep either one of them, and neither one of them's been able to be on the floor this season. Like, just not that they knew anything because these
No.
were new injuries,
Right.
but still, it is one of those things where we're like, wow, it's just kind of interesting how that worked out.
Sometimes that's the way things go. Wanted to finish on a positive. Jonathan Isaac to the G League. Getting closer, right? Getting closer to getting back on the NBA floor. Now he's going to be playing his trade in the G League. He's such an intriguing player, and he's been out for now years.
Yeah,
Hopefully he can,
years
I mean,
plural.
literally years. Like
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
hyperbole.
yeah.
Literally years. He's
August of
been,
2020 in the bubble
oof,
was the last time we saw
man,
him play. Yeah,
man.
yeah. Hey, this one too, just in case people didn't see this story, this is not one of those go down and practice. He's going to play
Mhm.
in the G League tonight with the Lakeland Magic in Lakeland. So this is a real chance to get on the floor. The Magic themselves, the NBA version, are out on the West Coast. So this is a chance for, all right, let's get him some real actual live game reps, not just practice, down there. He's been down with the Lakeland team several different times to kind of get in practice runs and build up his conditioning and whatnot. But now it's get him out on the floor and see what it looks like. So I know I'm going to be, it's rare, but I'm going to definitely be tuning in. They're the Magic broadcasters here. I don't remember what Bally something Florida. I don't
Yeah.
know, whatever it is. They're showing the game tonight, so I'll definitely be putting that on for a little bit just to see what it looks like. It's now I can already sense my aggravation level because it's going to end up being something silly like, all right, I'm going to turn it on to watch the beginning of it, and then we're going to find out he didn't start or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
Mad.
He's gonna come off the bench for
Yeah,
10 minutes in the second half or
it's gonna
something.
be
And
like, all right,
yeah.
I have NBA games to get on to here, people.
Come on,
I'm
he's a
not
busy man.
Yeah, I'm not spending this much time on that 7 o'clock tip. So but a little over an hour from now. So
All
it's
right.
also on ESPN Plus apparently too. So yeah, man, Lakeland stepping up in the
There
world.
you go.
Yeah,
You've got viewing options there.
yeah. Lakeland, known for more than just being halfway between Orlando and Tampa.
Yeah, now
On
home
the
of
highway.
the return of Jonathan Isaac as
Yeah, that's
well.
it. That's it. I'll tell you, man, those G League games,
They're
if you
fun.
have a G League team, yeah, close by, they're fun. They do a lot of stuff with the crowd. They really get people involved. It's a lot of fun in those G League markets. So if you can get to it, it's because that's what's closest to you. Or I get it. NBA games can be really expensive. Like, yeah, go have a little bit of fun in the G League.
Yep. Yep. It is a good time. Would highly recommend it. All right. I think that about wraps things up
Look at that. We did it.
for today. We did it. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel, NBA Front Office. And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast version as well over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever it is really that you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.